So I chose Barbie Doll by Marge Piercy, which is a short poem, and A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner. I chose the two texts because they both have similar stories but different outcomes. Barbie Doll is a poem about a young girl who is bullied by her peers because of her appearance. They say that she has a thick nose on fat legs, which she ends up killing herself because she cuts off her legs and her nose, resulting in her peers becoming happy by her Barbie doll appearance while she's lying in her casket. In A Rose for Emily, Emily Grierson suffers from social anxiety because her father shelters her until he eventually passes away in the story. He sends away any suitors that come along for Emily. He claims that they are not good enough for her. Well, after his death, she becomes really lonely and she just wants a husband. And she's also pressured a little bit by societal norms during that time. This was post-Civil War. Southern women were supposed to be married, and because of that, the one suitor she does find, she kills him and she keeps him hidden away upstairs in her home. His body is not found until about 40 years later when she actually dies, and the town goes in and they find his body lying there in the bed, and there's a strand of her hair on the pillow next to him. Emily Grierson had a family history of mental illness, and in the story, her father passes, and she's not ready to give up his body, and she tells the town that he hasn't passed yet. So that was one example of her just kind of having some mental problems. Besides killing Homer Barron, the suitor, and keeping him in her home. She's also pressured by society to make changes, such as the numbers on her house and the way that it looks in town, just as the years go by. After I chose my text, I did some research in the ERC database for anything pertaining to mental health. That's when I found the article about just social anxieties that adults have after having traumatic childhoods, and I really thought that pertained to Emily Grierson and A Rose for Emily. I made an outline with the example that Miss Collin provided in Blackboard. It was very detailed, so when I wrote my rough draft, it was easy to get out onto paper. I feel like I didn't learn anything new from the poem or the short story other than just two new things that I've read, but it does make me think more about bullying and just how judgment from society can affect an individual. My thesis for my paper was pretty simple. I'm setting out to prove that the effects of judgment on an individual can result with mental health issues. To prove my thesis, I would use the example of how the young girl in Barbie doll was bullied, and then she killed herself by trying to make those physical changes. Emily Grierson had social anxieties and didn't want to make the changes that society wanted her to make. So for my visual, I just did a comparison of the themes. And for A Rose for Emily, the societal changes brought fatal outcomes. The protagonist became mentally ill due to her father's sheltering. Society wanted her to make the physical changes and pressured her with being married. And she ends up killing Homer Barron and keeping him hidden upstairs in her home. For Barbie doll, inner beauty can often be diminished by societal judgments. The young girl is bullied by her peers because of her appearance. She has mental heartache. She cuts off her legs and nose, ending in death, and then her peers are happy about her appearance while she's lying in her casket, such as a Barbie doll. And for Barbie doll, the title itself was a symbol that Marge Piercy used because they say that her body looked like a Barbie doll after she had died from her peers' pressure.